experts, chemical and biological weapon, could be vetoed. And also the issue right now, we again, as our expert speaker mentioned again previously, we don't have a compliance regime not in place. So another way to look at this is that the civilian forums like this, what we're discussing about the need for looking at biological weapon and chemical weapon. So probably we have to create such venues to discuss about the importance of it. And also I may link up with the role of universities to look at research, look at the research outcome. Maybe one of the research ethics should be, universities should be careful about conducting and promoting research in the arena of biological and chemical weapon. And probably universities also can strengthen their ethics review procedures. And that could be have a national debate. And in nutshell, what Darshan, your answer to the question is that unless there are new institutions in place, unless our institutions like our Security Council is reformed, uh, probably I'm afraid to say that the Sustainable Development Goals may not be achieved, particularly in the area of SDG 17 and creating the institution and creating partnership for addressing some of the very important issues like biological and chemical weapon control regimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. You actually made my role very easy to kind of identify the next step of this conversation. You touched upon the roles of universities. I think at this stage is the perfect time to call upon revered Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karat, sir. Just for panelists Mark and Andrew and others who might not know, we have with us an individual who's touching 80. At the age of 66, he started building the world's largest dome dedicated monument to peace. And when on March 21, India went into lockdown, the world was wondering what to do. This individual lifted his phone, called us, and said, "It's high time we take things in our hand, create a movement, and really move on this. Where are we headed as a world? What are we doing? We really need to think on it." And who has strongly advocated all his life for a value based universal education system, defining roles of universities not only for shaping young minds, but shaping the larger ecosystems. Sir, I have a specific question for you, for which I would really like you to look at. You really suggested a very radical approach at when this happened at the June conference, an approach which directly took you to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and his call of disarmament is an essential tool to secure the world and our future. You took that call very seriously and you created a very specific action plan. Would you like to share with us what that thought was and where does it germinate?
Thank you so much, Darshan. I have very carefully heard the words of wisdom and the appropriate suggestions and advice given by Mr. Mark, Mr. Andrew, and our other friend. Instead of going back and trying to speak about the biological weapons or the chemical weapons in addition to the nuclear and atomic weapons which are piled up world over. And possibly everyone knows that the filing of these horrifying weapons, the mass destructive weapons, which have been reminded especially because of this biological virus, COVID-19, or the biological virus which we call coronavirus, which people feel it's whether it's a man-made or natural one, is a long discussion to go on. At some place called as Wuhan in China, during the research or during the experiment which they were making, they say it's a leakage. It's an error. I sincerely feel that when the experts in the field of the role of the United Nations, the Security Council members, I sincerely feel it's high time. Let me tell you. 2 years back, we had a discussion whether the world needs a world government, whether all nations should come together and formulate some body which has some authority, some authority given to them. Who will do it? To my mind, presently, the United Nations has a role to play. The World Health Organization has a better role to play again with the Security Council members of the whole world community. But let me very frankly make a comment, friends. All the powerful, very aggressive members of the Security Council, like America, China, Russia, Britain, Germany, France, whatever names you take. But what I observe is the Security Council members who should really provide the security to all the nations and all the mankind, entire mankind, the humanity as a whole. That becomes the duty of the United Nations. That is what is expected. But these Security Council members are more keen to show their authority and power and play the power game, the power game of supremacy. Really speaking, the Security Council members have a duty to help the poor and the needy nations of the whole world and society, the well-being of the mankind. Friends, very unfortunately, this is the unfortunate part. I'm not blaming any particular nation or any particular community, but I have a sincere feeling, let me tell you. If we do not rise to the occasion and understand the horrifying impending danger, I think Darshan made a mention, but if some such horrifying danger comes back again in a more terrific form. Today, as somebody said that nearly about 100,000 people died, I read the news in American families. There's another issue which has come up. The children, they do not have the parents to look after. And there are families where people have died and there is no one to take care of their own property itself. So many issues are arising all over the world, whether it's America, the China, the Russia. The sustainable development problems are another very important issue. But on the background of this coronavirus problem, which has locked down all the temples, the churches, the mosques, for the first time in the known human history, are we to take some lesson out of this or not? And what for this is going on? And even by any error or any mistake of triggering some such chemical or biological weapon or a virus in a more horrifying form. The other day, one of the American gentlemen said that this is only about 10 to 15% strength of the virus. If it comes in a bigger form, what will happen? Where are we going to search the solution? Who is going to help us? It is we ourselves. We will have to think tens of times that let us not play with this horrifying virus. The command has been given, which has made the entire world locked down. But there is a chief commander, as I have been always telling, let me tell you, friends, that now the habits of the Western world are at least changing a little bit. Indians have to learn also further about the cleanliness part of it. But let me tell you, friends, my personal appeal, I'm not an expert, I'm not advising you, I'm not preaching anybody, but it's high time, especially to give us some status by all the nations of the whole world, at least to a body like United Nations, and make them understand the responsibility and accountability of the Security Council members themselves. Who is going to ask them? What are they doing? Why the Security Council members are not coming together at all? They are more engaged in their wars, personal games, the chaos, confusion, bloodshed, massacre, and terrorism. And I think somebody, I think Mr. Mark or Andrew, somebody said that if these weapons go to the hands of the terrorist group, who have no concern with humanity at all, they are not worried at all. In the name of, the religion, which is a very typical word, spirituality is something different. But basically, because these people have only the concern for their own self and they don't understand the horrifying effects. Now, people like you, as I think Mr. Joe Thomas made a mention about education, I think some or the other we will have to develop some education system. Educate them, change their mindset. The destructive mind, the negative mindset is to be certainly changed and possibly make them aware, especially these great powerful members of the Security Council, the nations who are engaged in the humanitarian activities and realize the impending danger, what is hovering all over the world. Now, in the Indian text, as we have been saying, that we need to understand this horrifying effect of the impending danger of this coronavirus.
Yes.
We feel helpless. Everybody, let me tell you, what is it, China or Russia or America, they have become helpless. Where is their power? Where is their strength? Where is their money? Where are the weapons? Can we fight the war with this impending danger? I think we have to learn and understand that we should not play with some horrifying game. In the Indian text, there are so many stories like a demon getting some power and the blessings to put his hands on his own head and getting burned down completely. Now, as I told in the morning too, I really feel so painful. It's a mental agony that how many chemical and biological and destructive weapons are ready? What for? We are sitting on a ticking clock of the horrifying danger of all these weapons. And if these mass destructive weapons are triggered, I think your Mother Earth, where we are the beautiful planet, it may get burnt out tens of thousands of times.
I think
What for? Is the main issue.
yes.
I say I'm grateful to both the speakers, all the three speakers. I think we are at least having the passion and the fire in the belly to do something good for the whole of the human race. And that's our duty. Let us try to change the mindset of the people. And the negative mind has to be minimized. And the positive mindset, not to play with some such horrifying game, is the only request and only prayer. Thank you so much, friends. I'm grateful.
Thank you,
And
sir.
and Mark both, especially.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
I
That's
think I think, sir, Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir, gave us the perfect segue into the next part. There's this monster, we ourselves, trying to touch our own head and destroy ourselves. A story of Indian mythology, but that's what we as human race are heading towards today. So towards the last 15 minutes of this panel, I want to focus on more constructive steps of how do we really not get there? How do we really don't put our own destructive hands on our head to burn ourselves? What are those two things that we as individuals can do, not necessarily at the Security Council level? Yes, at the Security Council level, we've appealed, we've created a clarion call. And as students of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, all of us are signing petitions to the UN Secretary General asking him to convene the special Security Council meeting to look at this issue. While we approach at that level, what are things that we can do as individuals from your each perspective? I would like for all the three panelists to spend 2 minutes giving us that. In the meanwhile, for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to post in Q&A. We might have time only to take about 2 questions after we get the inputs on the constructive solution part. I'll leave it open to the panel as to who would like to go first. I think Andrew is unmuted. So Andrew, would you like to go first?
Sure. I mean, it's clear that one thing we can do as individuals, during the Cold War, we had civil defense and people had fallout shelters in their backyards, and this was not going to protect against nuclear weapons. But in the case of biological weapons, civil defense works, and that can begin at the individual level. As the example, of course, is the ongoing pandemic, where simple, cheap means like wearing masks to protect yourself, to protect others, are making a big difference. I was on a call with a Nobel laureate doctor from Japan explaining their success. They've only had, I think, just over 1,500 deaths in a country as populous as Japan. And it's largely because of their focus on hygiene, hand washing, wearing masks anytime they're in public. It's making a big difference. So civil defense begins with individuals taking these simple steps to avoid the spread of infectious diseases like the coronavirus.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Mark?
Yes, thank you. I think it's about two things. First, resources, and second, I would say intentions or intent. First, in terms of resources, again, the pandemic is a case in point that we see that those countries, including very advanced developed countries that had not necessarily given all the necessary priority to public health, are now suffering. I happen to be French, but live in Switzerland. In Switzerland, the pandemic was completely controlled. Very few victims. In France, neighboring country, the people realized that over the previous year, the government had canceled almost 4,000 beds in hospital just to reduce public spending. That's the neoliberal economic policy, and then so the result was massive contamination and of the hospitals being overwhelmed. We talked about President Trump. I'm sorry that he finally was infected, but we should not forget that he took the initiative to stop funding the WHO and pulling out the United States from WHO at the height of the pandemic. And when you know that the budget of the WHO leading this world's effort to fight the pandemic is hardly over $5 billion, and you compare this, for instance, with world military spending, which is almost $2,000 billion, that means that one day of military spending can cover the budget of World Health Organization. And there were studies actually showing that, very well documented statistics showing that whenever in a country military spending is increased by 1%, the sector that loses is public health, because the spending in public health is reduced by 1%. Again, it's available online, so you can look at these studies. So the conclusion is we need more resources for public health, as Andrew said, for preparedness, to have vaccines, to be ready for more of these risks or pandemics. If we don't have a vaccine for every disease, it's also because the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, was not so interested in infectious diseases. It's more profitable to invest in cancer drugs or drugs against Alzheimer's disease, etc. But what was left was the lack of funding and investment against infectious diseases. That's why public funding has to come to compensate for that. The second aspect, again, is intent. We know that capacities or opportunities are there both for chemical and biological weapons. It's even becoming easier because of new technologies to access DNA of pathogens and manipulate them. So this is made accessible. So people who do that, if they do it for research purposes, for the good of science, that of course should be encouraged, but they should be made aware that there are maybe other people who could use this for hostile, offensive purposes, for bad intentions. So that should be part of this global effort, legislation, awareness raising, code of conduct, education.
Thank you, Mark. I think what you and Andrew have spoken about is really the aspect of individuals taking up the responsibility and moving it to collective. I think, Professor Joe, you can bring the angle, and literally in 2 minutes, we have our next session speakers coming online, and we would putting remark. But in 2 minutes, how do we take this individual movements and really look at it from partnerships perspective? Over to you, Professor Joe, for 2 minutes.
I'll just take 1 minute to just highlight one particular point. I would say that this is an opportunity, or this is a need for creating a new public health. I'll just give an example about it. In India, so far, 800 healthcare workers, doctors and nurses died due to COVID pandemic. 68,000 healthcare workers are infected by coronavirus in India. But suppose 800 soldiers who died on the border, our discourse would have been totally different. So probably we need a discourse which is looking at human security and not denouncing the need for border security, but human security should be as equal or more important than the border security. Resource allocation for the health should be somewhere near the range of our defense budget. Defense budget is about 30%, but the health budget is about 1.2% of the GDP. So this pandemic reminds us, if you had to deal with issues like the control of biological and chemical weapons, we need to strengthen our public health system. And we need to strengthen the public health system, public health education based on the concept of human security. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Professor Joe was really wanting to bring that topic out, and thank you for bringing that because it's really pertinent. I have last 2 minutes where I'm supposed to give concluding remarks, but with Andrew, Mark, and Professor Joe out there, I think I will like to pass on those 2 minutes to all three of you. And like Professor Joe, if Andrew, you have any burning last comment that you think you have to make on this panel, any one statement that you need to make before we conclude?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you for convening this effort and making this movement move forward. But so much depends on youth and education and the emerging leaders. So really, it's in their hands to make sure that, as President Obama said to the UN General Assembly, we must not allow the worst weapons of the 20th century to darken the 21st century. So it's really in the hands of the next generation to make sure that that my children won't have to, and grandchildren won't have to know what these horrible weapons even are.
What a sobering remark from a president who embodied everything that he stood for. I can see our panelists smiling the moment President Obama's name came out. Mark, any burning comment?
No, thank you. I agree with Andrew and Dr. Joe. I think this pandemic may be a wake-up call or an eye-opener on these new priorities for human security, for public good, for public health, and that is already leading to some debates nationally, regionally, about how to reallocate resources for better purposes. So I hope it will be followed through with the support, of course, with the mobilization of people, civil society, especially young people, because it's about their future. And so, in a sense, it's of course terrible and sorry that we had to deplore so many victims. But if this is the beginning of a new world or new era, maybe this would have been worth this pain.
Thank you, Mark. I think we have with us Dr. Prasad Khandekar, Dean, Engineering College of MIT World Peace University, a very senior academician. So before I finally conclude the session, Dr. Prasad Khandekar, your remarks, please.
Thank you, Darshan. It was a wonderful day for me to share this online dais with luminaries from this field. I do not belong to this field, but to learn from this, all the stalwarts, 4 stalwarts who contributed in this panel, it was a learning experience for me. So with your permission, shall I propose a vote of thanks or, okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Darshan. So it's indeed my pleasure and honor to propose the vote of thanks. All of us know that weapons cause physical harm, but we at MIT World Peace University are more worried about more than physical harm, the mental harm, the trauma, the pains, the agony that it will cause. And our founder president in last 4 decades must have guided millions of people across the globe to understand, appreciate, and practice the world peace. And this may be one of those 100 sessions that he might have conducted and organized to educate the entire world on this world peace, to create this awareness. Sir, I take this opportunity to thank you to enlighten our lives, Karat sir. I also would like to thank Mr. Andreas Weber for his valuable time and words of wisdom. And I was very pleased to know that he has made this topic as his life mission. Thank you, Andreas, for enlightening us. I am also thankful to Mr. Mark Fino for his focus, and he was insisting that there has to be more budget on healthcare rather than our defense. And he also gave some constructive suggestions for all of us to follow. I also thank our own Professor Joe Thomas for his valuable inputs and insisting that human security is more important than the border security, and we have to concern about human lives. Thank you, Professor Joe, for your valuable comments. I would like to thank all other panel members, all our technical team, our marketing team, all those participants who spend time with us to understand these words of wisdom from our esteemed panel members, and the media, the print and electronic media, which is covering this live on various social media platforms. I would like to thank all of them. I would also like to thank all those who contributed directly or indirectly in making this session a wonderful interactive session. Thank you one and all. Let's contribute to a better world for our own children, grandchildren, and contribute to the better society for tomorrow. Thank you all.
I think as facilitator, I do get the privilege of saying something after vote of thanks. And that's to Andrew and Mark on behalf of me, Dr. Joe, and the MIT World Peace University. We want to build this large ecosystem and movement to ensure that the next generation, as President Obama said, does not see the evils of this generation. So I call upon both of you to help us build this larger partnership and larger global ecosystem. We'll surely touch base, and to all our audience who's listening, join us in this movement. Please go ahead and sign our clarion call, the pledge on change.org, addressed to the UN Secretary General for complete and total eradication of biological and chemical weapons. And let's make the world a safer place for our children. Thank you, panelists. Thank you. We would discontinue this session at this moment, and the next session will begin in 15 minutes. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Darshan, we can continue this session. We have close to 650 audience here. And we will not sign off. We will continue so that
Sure.
the audience will remain in touch with us.
Andrew, you can stay, join us. It's up to you. It would be a pleasure to have you for the next session as well. But we are launching one of very unique programs. So, yes.
दर्शन,
Yes, sir.
मृदुला आणि मित्रत्वाला धन्यवाद मनापासून. खूप सुंदर, छान,
Thank you, sir.
ब्युटिफुल. चल, मृदुला, थँक यू.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
चालू द्या.
Good evening, Mr. Darshan. I think we still have a few minutes to go before we actually begin with this session.
Yes, you can start. Do you want to quickly? We have just 2 minutes, and I think we have the Dome video coming up. So let's take a pause, and you can start in 2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
इक्कीसवीं शताब्दी में मेरी भारत माता विश्व गुरु बनने की काबिलियत रखता है. It will become a Vishwa Guru in the 21st century उसका छोटा सा उदाहरण, छोटा सा सिंबल यहाँ बन गया है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है।
I must say that in the entire history after the independence since 1947, this is one of the unique steps towards the contribution of universal humanity. And my government of India I appeal to the Vice President and Honorable Chief Minister to recognize this World Peace Dome as a structure of national and global importance and support to promote it in such a way that it evolves as one of the prominent tourism destinations of the world.
Hello and good evening, everyone in the audience. It's really great to see the number of 580 on this platform and many more on social media platforms. In a few minutes from now, we would be beginning with the next session, which would be the eighth session of this sixth World Parliament of Science, Religion, and Philosophy. It's going to be a very special session, my friends, because this session would have the presence of three people, those who have worked actually on field in the actual conflict zones, because it is completely different than sitting in an air conditioned room and talking about peace and actually being on field and working in the conflict zones and actually experiencing what does it really mean by trying to bring in peace and why does it matter so much. So we will have the presence of three such people with us in this particular session. And of course, we will have the presence of chief guest for this particular session, Honorable Union Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji, who would be joining us in precisely 8 minutes from now. So I would request everyone to please stay connected, as in few minutes from now, we will start with the session. Thank you. I would like to welcome all the dignitaries for this particular session. I can see the guest of honor of this particular session, the Professor of Department of Civil Engineering, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at the University of Texas at Arlington. Dr. Vistap Karbhari has already joined the session. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining in for this very important session. Welcome you on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karade, MIT World Peace University. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. पांडे सर आवाज चेक करता एकदा. पांडे सर आवाज येतोय?
हो
हा
हो
शशी
येतोय.
शशी आवाज येतोय.
हा एकदा रिलॉग इन केलं होतं त्याच्यासाठी. चालेल.
हा
evening, good morning, good afternoon, and probably every greeting of the daytime. The reason behind saying this is going to be a very, very important session for the Sixth World Parliament of Science, Religion, and Philosophy. We have the presence of Honorable Union Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India, the chief guest of this session, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining in and taking time out from your extremely busy schedule. We also have with us in this very session the co-chair of Global Coalition on the Youth, Peace and Security, Director of Children and Youth Programs, Search for Common Grounds, Mr. Sachi Prelis. Thank you very much for joining in. And I suppose the time zone you're in, it's definitely different than what we have here. We also have with us the peace activist and journalist, the Democratic Republic of Congo, all the way online from there, the founder of Peacemaker 360 campaign at Belgium, Mr. Christian Cito. Thank you very much for joining in. We also have the presence of Executive Director for the Rotary Action Group for Peace, Portland, Oregon, United States of America, Ms. Rim Gunain. Thank you very much for joining in. We have the presence of Honorable Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University, Dr. N.T. Rao. We have the presence of Professor of Department of Civil Engineering, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, the University of Texas at Arlington. The guest of honor of this session, Dr. Vistap Karbhari. Thank you very much, sir, for joining in. We also have the presence of Australian philanthropist, founder and executive chairman of the Charitable Foundation and Institute for Economics and Peace, Sydney, Australia. The guest of honor of this session, Mr. Steve Kiliela. Thank you very much for joining everyone from almost every continent on this globe. We have the presence here in this session for a marvelous session that we have here. And this session is extremely important for the world, I would say. It's not just because we have the presence of everyone from the world, but in this session, we are going to listen to the stories of the peace worker, those who have worked actually on ground and have seen what exactly is the meaning and requirement of peace in the world. But as well, we are going to declare the MIT World Peace University World Peace Fellowship in the august presence of Honorable Union Minister, sir. So before we begin with this very, very important session, I would request, as per the traditions of Myers MIT Group of Institutions for the last 40 years, we will begin this particular session with World Peace Prayer. There are so many guests present here today. I would quickly like to tell them what exactly this prayer is. Because generally, whenever we talk about any prayer, unfortunately, the prayer is immediately attached to some religion, some society, some sect. But this World Peace Prayer, which is a gift of Dr. Vishwanath Karaj sir, our beloved founder, to the entire world, this particular prayer does not talk about any caste, creed, religion, or any one particular section of society. Though the words of this prayer are in Sanskrit, but the meaning is exclusively world peace and peace at large. I request my technical team to relay, but before that, let me request each one of you to hold your hands, close your eyes, and bring the image of your deity, your loved one in front of your eyes, and wholeheartedly participate in World Peace Prayer. Over to you.
प्रतिपाद्या जय जय स्वसंवेद्या आत्मरूपा देवा तूति गणेषु सकलार्थमति प्रकाशु म्हणे निवृत्तिदासु अवधारि बोधि गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः.
Thank you very much for that prayer. My friends, now before we go any further, this has been the way of celebrating the photograph, the picture perfect moment. So I would like to request everyone in the panel to please put on their cameras and wear a beautiful smile so that we can grab a photograph by a screenshot, because that's the only way we can have a group photograph in this new normal. So I would request everyone to wear a beautiful smile and put on their cameras once again so that we can have the picture perfect moment for this particular session. Thank you very much. I'm sure the screenshot must have been taken by now, because it is much quicker than the old normal where the photographers would run around with the cameras. Thank you very much for that particular photo, I would say. My friends, I'm sure you must have noticed a beautiful structure while the World Peace Prayer was being played. I'm sure many of you would know what that structure is, but many of you would be wondering that what that building was. My friends, that structure, that building is, I would say, the outcome of the entire the mission, that the commitment that revered Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karatsa took and did for his entire lifetime. My friends, that was the picture of world's biggest dome. Yes, indeed, world's biggest dome. But it's not special to us because it is world's biggest structure. It is special because it gives the special message, which is probably the most important message for the entire world. So before I talk a bit about it, I would request my technical team if they can quickly please relay a small film made on philosopher Saint Sri Gyaneshwara World Peace Prayer Hall and World Peace Library. Over to you. Can we have the video, please?
इक्कीसवीं शताब्दी में मेरी भारत माता विश्व गुरु बनने की काबिलियत रखता है. It will become a विश्व गुरु in the 21st century. उसका छोटा सा उदाहरण, छोटा सा सिंबल यहाँ बन गया है, ऐसा मेरा मानना है. I must say that in the entire history after the independence since 1947, this is one of the unique steps towards the contribution of universal humanity, and my government of India I appeal to the Vice President and Honorable Chief Minister to recognize this World Peace Dome as a structure of national and global importance and support to promote it in such a way that it evolves as one of the prominent tourism destinations of the world.
Thank you very much for that video. My friends, I'm sure you must have understood through the medium of that video what exactly is the grandeur of that structure, and more than that, what is the message that structure is trying to give to the entire world. I'm sure we all have gathered here in this session from all parts of the world, but I would insist along with the Honorable Minister, sir, and everyone from the world, to please take time out from your busy schedules one day and please visit this structure and try and understand what is the message that is trying to give to the entire world. My friends, I would now like to take this session forward, and I would like to request that we go ahead and launch the MIT World Peace University World Peace Fellowship. Generally, the way this would have been done is by showing a document or a signed document in the presence of Honorable Minister, sir. But because we are in new normal, we'll have to only announce it that it is being inaugurated. But then I would request the Honorable Minister, sir, in his speech that he would do so and formally declare and launch the MIT World Peace University World Peace Fellowship. But what it is, what this fellowship is all about, to share that with us, I would like to request the program designer of MIT WPU World Peace Fellowship, Mr. Joshua Prosky, to brief the entire session about this fellowship. Over to you.
Thank you. Can you please allow me to share my screen? I just have a short presentation I want to share.
Sure, Mr. Joshua, I would request my technical team to do that. But let me quickly remind you, we have the presence of Honorable Minister, sir, who has very limited time. So we'll have approximately 3 minutes for you.
Okay, sounds good. In that case, let me just do that, share. Here you go. Okay, great. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm just going to briefly talk about the brand new fellowship that we have that will be for thousands of youth in conflict zones across India. I'm going to briefly discuss why we're doing this fellowship and what we want to achieve with this fellowship. I want to first address some of the challenges that have led us to create this fellowship. As you can see, there's a lot of different issues going on, not just in India, but across the globe. Growing presence of sectarianism, extreme nationalism, structural violence, bigotry, and discrimination. And of course, during these uncertain times, COVID-19 has only amplified many of these structural inequalities. However, India has the largest youth population in the world, and it's only growing. So, and there's millions of young people that are really searching for belonging and purpose. So there's a great opportunity here as well. And MIT is uniquely positioned to lead this effort because there's so much potential for progress. There are few institutions like MIT, WPU in the world or in India, and it really can lead the charge to effectively address some of the challenges that I just mentioned in order to advance justice and improve well-being of young people or all people across India. Now, to effectively address these challenges, we felt that the fellows had to develop the tools, knowledge, skills, and mindset to be justice-oriented citizen. So to just give the quick example of how we might think about the topic of hunger, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can address hunger. A personally responsible citizen might donate some food to a food drive. A participatory citizen could help organize a food drive, which is an excellent thing. But MIT wants to take this one step further. And through the fellowship, we want to develop a network of thousands of justice-oriented citizens who are able to define the root cause of the problem and then develop strategies and solutions to address the issue and improve the well-being of their community. And this way of thinking really informed the vision and mission of this fellowship, which I will skip over because of time. Now, there's going to be a lot of different topics that we're going to cover with this fellowship, but one area we really wanted to put focus on is understanding and magnifying self. We believe in the idea that individual transformation will lead to collective transformation. You cannot build peace for others if you are not at first at peace with yourself. When I understand myself, I understand you, and out of understanding comes love. And so much of this fellowship is connected to that quote. Now, throughout this fellowship, participants will go on a journey to understand self, others, civic engagement, media literacy, conflict, and of course, peace. This slide here lists the key program outcomes and the main competencies that we want fellows to walk away with in order to have initial success as a peace builder. And as I look at our final slide here, in the end, the long-term success of this will be the fellows creating their action plan and implementing this action plan in their respective communities. And it's really about the fellows being able to know how to act, have the confidence, ability, and successfully know how to act within their own community. This is an ambitious and exciting program with endless possibilities and potential. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm really sorry I'm out of words, but thank you very much for bringing us to light that what exactly this fellowship means. Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua, and apologies for paucity of time. Thank you very much once again.
You're welcome.
Now, it is time that I invite the chief guest of this session, the Honorable Union Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, Heavy Industries and Public Enterprise, Government of India, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji, to kindly address the gathering. But before I do that, I'm going to request him that he formally announces in his speech that MIT WPO World Peace Fellowship is now launched. But before I invite him to address the gathering, I request my technical team if they could please kindly relay a small film made on life and work of Honorable Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji. Over to you.
Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji is the Honorable Minister of State of Parliamentary Affairs, Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises for the Government of India. In the year 2009, he took voluntary retirement from the Indian Administrative Services and opted for the political method to serve the common people of India. It was the time when he was elected as the Member of Parliament representing Bikaner in the 15th Lok Sabha from the Bharatiya Janata Party. He was awarded with the prestigious Sansad Maharatna and Sansad Ratna awards in the year 2015. During his second term as an MP, he was nominated as the Chairman, House Committee Lok Sabha and Chief Whip of BJP in Lok Sabha. He also served as the Union Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs in 2016 and in 2017 was appointed as the Union Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. In the general election of the year 2019, the people of Bikaner reaffirmed their faith in him by electing him consecutively for the third time to the Lok Sabha. ICSI conferred the honorary fellow membership upon him at its 51st Foundation Day in October 2019. Being an environmentalist to the core, Shri Arjun Ram Meghwal often uses his bicycle as a local transport mode, be it cycling to the Parliament or cycling for the oath-taking ceremony at Rashtrapita Bhavan. Recently, Shri Meghwalji has written a book about his spouse titled Ek Safar Hum Safar Ke Saath, and it details his 50 years of marriage. We are honored to welcome Shri Arjun Ram Meghwalji to the World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy 2020.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining in. And it is indeed our honor and privilege to have you here. Thank you very much once again. Over to you, sir.
Professor Gautam Bapat Sahab, can I speak now?
Yes, please, sir.
Yes.
Over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Gautam Bapat ji, and the Rahul Karad Sahab, and Professor and Dr. Vishwanath Karad जी के जो पर्सनैलिटी है उस पर ये सारा संत ज्ञानेश्वर
विश्व शांति पुस्तकालय और ये चीजें बनी हुई है। मैंने अभी फिल्म देखी है, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि ये इतना अच्छा कार्यक्रम आप कर रहे हो। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, एज यू डिजायर, I announce the launch of MIT World Peace University, MIT Worldship Peace Fellowship. And thank you very much. Now I start my speech, which is based on peace and present functioning of the human being. I think I'm addressing to the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion, and Philosophy. If I am right, so then I know that it is your topic. I just reached from Bikaner, Rajasthan, my parliamentary constituency in Delhi, and my people told me that there is a program regarding the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion, and Philosophy. And it is my pride privilege that I am joining you. Thank you, all of you. I just wanted, or I'm telling to you that the composition of a human being, we have a body, then mind, then intellect, and then soul. Basically the 4 component in a human body we have, but we don't recognize the functioning of the 4 part. So we are living in unrest. We don't know the functioning of the senses. We have a 5 karmendriya, we have a 5 gyanendriya, then we have a mind. And the mind is also of a 2 type of a mind. One is physical mind and another is a subconscious mind. We never know the functioning of the subconscious mind. Swami Vivekananda attended a World Parliament in 1893, and he introspects himself. He introspects himself and announced the one sentence that was very important. मेरे प्रिय अमेरिकन भाइयों और बहनों, एक सेंटेंस ने ही उनको इतना पॉपुलर बना दिया। ये क्यों? That sentence was based on love. The sentence was based on the composition of the human body. Body, mind, intellect, and soul. If we live with the 4, we can work with the peace. If we live with the coordination of the 4 and know the functioning of the 4, and we do introspect daily in the morning or in the evening, definitely we will live in the peace. And that is, I think, our topic of the today's. What is the problem nowadays in a COVID-19 era? Our problem is that we all are thinking that my way is the highway. Indians are thinking that my way is the highway. Americans are also thinking that my way is the highway. Japanese are also thinking that we are the excellent in technology, so my way is the highway. That is the problem. And that doesn't invite the peace. That creates the problem of the unrest, jealousy. So what we should do, we can recognize and acknowledge that my way is not only the highway. Highway may be, the others way may be good, highway may be others way. My way is also the way, but only the my way is the highway. That ego problem creates a lot of problem in the science, religion, and philosophy. Basically, we have to do one thing. If something thinks that I am the only person who know each and everything, the I. What we have to do? We cut the size of I and we enlarge the size of we. That should be our action. If we promote such type of action, we definitely promote the science, basically, because it is a spiritual science that we have a body, we have a senses, karmendriya, gyanendriya, and we don't, when we don't introspect, then we feel that I am the only man in the world. I am a superpower. We are the we belongs to such and such country and we are the superpower. That such type of thinking we must discourage. And that prevail in the mind or in the soul or in the intellect when we do daily practice of yoga, pranayam, swadhyay, and the basic concept of the science. What is the science? Only the human being doesn't mean that we belong to the science. Human beings, all the trees, all the birds, all the animals means nature. That is why the Kabir has told that pothi pat pat jag moa और पंडित भया न कोई, ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित हो. But we don't promote the love. We should promote the love each other. Unless we know the basic concept of the science, we cannot promote the love. That is the science. We should live with the nature. That is the science. That is the philosophy of a human being. We should live with the nature. And now in the COVID-19 era, we all must, I think, live with the nature. Generally, I am living in Delhi. मैं देखता हूँ सुबह सुबह आकाश भी साफ रहता है, चंद्रमा भी अच्छा दिखता है, सूरज भी अच्छा दिखता है, पक्षी भी चहकाते हैं, दिखने लग गए. तो ये एनवायरनमेंट ठीक हुआ. ये क्यों ठीक हुआ? ये एनवायरनमेंट को ठीक रखने की ड्यूटी भी हमारी है. नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को हम क्या देके जा रहे हैं जी? तो वी मस्ट do introspect. After knowing the science, after knowing the religion, and after the full study of the philosophy, concept of the philosophy. Some people say, some writers say that the religion and philosophy is different, the two things. No. First, we have to know the definition of the philosophy that leads to religions. If they are the complementary and supplementary. If we read the regions, that leads to, we study the religion that leads to philosophy. They are the religion and the philosophy, they related to each other, complementary and supplementary. And the science is the basic concept of the human being. Now we are facing the problem of the coronavirus. All the science, the development of the science, development of the medical science, we could not invent the vaccine of the coronavirus because nature is more superior than a human being. That lesson we taught in that particular period. So, in the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy, my humble request is that we must know the functioning of the body of the human being. We have a physical body, composition of the 5 senses, Karmendriya, then Gyanendriya, 5 plus 10 senses. Composition of the mind, physical mind. That is the body, human body. And then mind, physical mind and subconscious mind. And then intellect. And then soul. The ultimate reality of the peace, if we do work with the coordination of the body, mind, intellect, and soul, then can we definitely achieve the target of the 6th World Parliament of the Science, Religion and Philosophy. As I told earlier, that we have the cut size of the eye. That is the problematic. And you have seen also in the North Koreans that he is telling that I am the superpower. Means his ego is more than human civilization. That creates the problem. That creates the unrest in the world. So we must cut size the I, and we develop or enlarge the V. So we can live in the environment of the peace. मुझे जो जानकारी दी गई उसमें प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ कराड़, ये मल्टी डायमेंशनल पर्सनैलिटी के स्वामी रहे हैं. उन्होंने विश्व राजबाग, लोनी काल भोर, पुणे में दुनिया के सबसे बड़े गुंबद के अलावा दार्शनिक संत ज्ञानेश्वर, विश्व शांति पुस्तकालय एवं विश्व शांति प्रार्थना हॉल की स्थापना की, जो अभी मैंने वीडियो में देखा भी. ये इसका एक जीता जागता उदाहरण है. साथ ही साथ जिस प्रकार से आपने आध्यात्मिक केंद्रों को ज्ञान केंद्रों में परिवर्तित करने का बीड़ा उठाया, वे अपने आप में सराहनीय है. अगर हम ये बात करें कि पीस में हमारी रेटिंग क्या है इंडिया की, द ग्लोबल पीस इंडेक्स, ए रिपोर्ट दैट मेजर and rates a nation's peacefulness, ranks India's 139 of 163 countries. They assess the index of the 163 countries, and the India's position is 139. When are all philosophers telling us the importance of the peace, our science is also telling us the importance of the peace. Our religion is also telling the importance of the peace. Then why the India's ranking is 139 only? That is the time of introspections. In 1893, Swami Vivekananda told in the Michigan universities that the 21st century will be the India's century. We are running in 21st century. और अभी डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ कराड़ साहब, अभी मैं जब देख रहा था गुंबज, तो वो भी 21वीं सदी की बात कर रहे थे कि मैंने ये जो केंद्र बनाया है, स्पिरिचुअल साइंस सेंटर जो बनाया है, ये 21वीं सदी को आगे ले जाने वाला बना है। तो आज के इस अवसर पर मुझे इतना ही कहना है कि 6th वर्ल्ड पार्लियामेंट ऑफ साइंस, रिलीजन एंड फिलोसफी की ये जो आपकी वर्कशॉप है, सेमिनार है, ये सफल होगी। और प्रोफेसर गौतम बापट बहुत अच्छा संचालन कर रहे हैं। मैं पुणे डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ कराड, जो MIT वर्ल्ड पीस यूनिवर्सिटी है और जो MIT वर्ल्ड पीस फेलोशिप का आज कार्यक्रम जो लॉन्च हुआ है, उसके लिए शुभकामनाएं देता हुआ मेरी बात को समाप्त करता हूं। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर लिसनिंग टू मी। थैंक यू।
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, in this platform, I cannot even call for a big round of applause. But yes, indeed. I mean, it was so beautiful listening to you that मतलब हिंदी में कहना चाहूँगा कि जिस प्रकार के मिनिस्टर आज भारत को मिल रहे हैं, after hearing you, it was so amazing looking at the way you presented your thoughts. Thank you very much, sir, for that. But before I go any further, I would like to request our beloved founder, Reverend Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir, if he would like to say a few words. Over to you, sir.
Namaste, Honorable Arjun Ram Meghwal ji, for very words of wisdom which you spoke and gave the blessings to this very mission of promoting this MIT World Peace University Fellowship for those people who are working for the promotion of culture of peace in the world. I can see that you must have been from the background of a farmer's family. I come from a very small village of 2,000 population. I'm a farmer's son, and I'm not the maker of what has been said about the dome, but basically I'm a staunch follower of Dr. Noble Son of India, Swami Vivekananda, and having some understanding of the role of science and spiritual component of life. From Sant Jnaneshwara to Albert Einstein. This is a long journey. And there has been a mission which was chosen by this World Peace University or MIT group of institutions. And what you spoke during your address, giving us the clear understanding of what science stands for, what spirituality or religion stands for, and what philosophy of what India stands for. The Indian culture, Indian tradition, and Indian philosophy have been very unique. You said finally where we stand in the list. Possibly the MIT or the World Peace University has actually started speaking on these lines from the year 1996, when the world never recognized the saints like Sant Jnaneshwar or Sant Tukaram or Vivekananda or Kabir or Guru Nanak. They were never considered to be the philosophers of the world like Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Kant, Hegel. But we had the fortune, with the blessings of one of my great teachers, Dr. Surendra Barlinge, for the first time in possibly the history, we had organized the first World Philosophers Meet, called as the first Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy, in the year 1996, on the occasion of the 700th anniversary of the Sanjeevan Samadhi of Jnaneshwara. The world never knew who Jnaneshwara is, who Tukaram is, who Guru Nanak is possible. And I had the good fortune that I could get the blessings that time, and we could really, for the first time in the history of possibly after the Swami Vivekananda's address and the words of wisdom which he spoke that time, union of science and religion, oblique philosophy will bring harmony and peace to mankind. एक शब्द है, एक वाक्य है, one sentence, but that became the source of inspiration for us. And our MIT group of institutions and the MIT World Peace University has been trying to understand and learn. Not that we are the masters, we are not here to teach or preach anything, but certainly a time has come when we have to stand firm and speak to the whole world the appropriate words of wisdom, the scientific, philosophical, spiritual science. I say science and spiritual science does not differ. Only thing is confusion can be about the religion itself. The word religion is nothing but to perform our duty. The duty toward the mother, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. That's the philosophy of what India stands for. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, Vedic wisdom. Tattva-masi, only one word. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, only one sentence. But Meghwalji, you are such a learned scholar, thinker. You are not only a minister. You are a person who have been a scholar, thinker, philosopher, with a deep understanding and the essence and philosophy of what we are. Understanding the self, knowing the self is what is called as the internationally, our son Dhaneshwara, I'm just showing you the book because you have no time, really speaking, you are so busy. But this is a small booklet which was published on 3rd of June this year with Dr. Vijay Bhatkar, the greatest computer scientist of the whole world, Param supercomputer scientist, and your other gentleman, Mr. Kishore Vyasji, who is the chairman or the treasurer of the Ram Janmabhoomi issue of Ayodhya. And this was published, it's called the 9 Universal Secrets. I'm saying 9 Universal Secrets, the principles of the universe itself, which were spoken at the age of only 16, only 30 years back. But sir, you know it very well. That time there was no Google, no Facebook, no web technology like this, no artificial intelligence techniques existing that time. But let me tell you, friends, no, it's not an ego. I'm making this statement being a student of engineering. I do understand what the Einstein says, what the Newton says, or what son Dhaneshwara says. The same words of wisdom, very scientific, logical, and philosophical for the well-being of the mankind. That was the thing, but we never had spoken this openly on the international platforms. But what a good fortune for me. Let me tell you, sir, it is found that in the known human history, possibly, such a monument which has, I'm not the maker, I'm not the doer, I'm just an instrument. I have been fortunate enough because of the blessings of my mother and the father and my elder sister, I could do this something of this type. When I come from some small village, I can't imagine myself that who is the maker, who is the doer, but it has come up. It has been evolved with the blessings of Almighty. You may call consciousness, you may call intelligence, because the entire universe itself is a manifestation of pure consciousness and intelligence. These are the words of wisdom spoken by this great same man, 16 years old man from India, Alandi, just nearby. Why I'm telling, sir, because I'm tempted because of your speech and because of your very comments that making the I little shorter, which creates an ego. I and we make a difference. And you know it very well that this has been our main mission, to join hands together for a good cause. And India has a role, Meghramji. India has to emerge as a knowledge part of the whole world and rise to guide the whole human race on the background of this coronavirus, which has given a horrifying command, and the entire world is locked down. I still remember it was 25th of March when the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, gave a clarion call to the whole of the India and the world to get locked down. It was 25th of March, Gudi Padwa Day, Ugadi. And I still remember I was writing something on this dome itself. But let me tell you, this is a visionary statement. This is a visionary outlook. But now we have to visualize, including our Honorable Prime Minister and all the people like you who are the leaders. You are the guardians of not only India alone, but the whole human race. India has a duty to perform, and now unless we rise, awake ourselves and try to prove that India is a knowledge part of the whole world and will become a Vishwa Guru in the long run, and that time has come. That's why this dome has come up, and that's why possibly today when you could find time and bless this occasion and speak such a wonderful words of wisdom, There is a passion and a fire in your belly. That's why you were trying to speak and elaborately tell us exactly what is the pathway. What for this world parliament of science, religion, and philosophy. About the religious text, with Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, Zoroastrian, you take it in Christianity. All these religious scriptures are nothing but life guiding scriptures. They tell us how to live and how not to live. Those are the religious scriptures. And Lord Sri Krishna, who speaks about this dharma in the Bhagavad Gita, which has been finally put up in the form of a Dhaneshwari by this young boy, 730 years back. Remember, I'm repeating this. We cannot think, we cannot imagine that a boy of 16 years old speaks about the knowledge system, the knowledge divine, the principles, the laws of nature and life. You said about Mother Nature, निसर्ग तत्व जिसे बोला जाता है, इसकी बात ये संत ज्ञानेश्वर ने 730 साल के पहले कही है, 730 years back. But we never thought of this. We thought it is all religious. ये भजन होता है, अंधश्रद्धा होती है. श्रद्धा की बात क्या है? So I'm really grateful that you could really guide us and give us the blessing. After this COVID-19 problem is over, I look forward for all of you, my friends, to come and visit personally, see it yourself, know it yourself, try to understand the spirit behind and the message behind. Message is for the well-being of the mankind, promoting the culture of peace in the world. The duty of Mother India. Thank you, sir. मेघराम जी, मैं बहुत आभारी हूँ आपका. बहुत बहुत
थैंक यू सर. मैं जरूर आऊंगा, आपको विजिट करूंगा, आपसे मिलूंगा. और जो आपने हमको ड्यूटी दी है और 21st सेंचुरी में इंडिया का जो रोल आपने बताया है, वो बहुत अच्छा तरीके से आपने नरेट किया है और हम आपकी भावनाओं से अवगत है. निश्चित रूप से इंडिया 21st सेंचुरी में बहुत आगे बढ़ेगा और संसार को लीड करेगा. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. बहुत धन्यवाद. प्रणाम.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Minister, sir, and Revered Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karat, sir. It was so beautiful that both your speeches, we thought it's a dialogue between both of you. So beautiful. Thank you very much, Minister, sir, for taking time out from your busy schedule. We all are really grateful that you took time out. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. My friends, let me now take the session forward. And now with this, we have come to the end of, I would say, first part of this particular session where we were supposed to launch the World Peace Fellowship, and Honorable Minister sir announced, and the World Peace Fellowship was formally launched. But now let's move ahead, and now let's enter into the second part of this particular session where we understand the stories from the people, those who have actually worked on ground to work for the peace. But before we go there, we have a beautiful video made by the drummers of the state of Kerala, performance by young artists from the Kerala, and anchored by Banyan Tree. The video is called Tunes of Peace. I request my technical team to kindly relay the video, please.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings of the day. At the outset, our heartiest congratulations to Dr. Vishwanath Karat and the committee members of MIT World Peace University for the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy. It is an honor and privilege for us at Banyan Tree to be part of this great initiative and very special occasion. As we all know, sound waves are so significant in science. Likewise, Nad Brahma is the very nucleus of Indian spirituality. In ancient India, this was understood very well, and hence in places like Kerala, even thousands of years ago, they had drums dedicated to the temples. Panchavadyam, the 5-drum ensemble, is considered essential even today. The vibrations created by these 5 drums connect us to the spiritual core and spread the message of peace and harmony. Today, at this grand launching of the World Peace Fellowship, we are glad to bring to you a beautiful presentation by a talented group of drummers from Kerala. P. Nandakumar on Edakka, Dinesh Warrior on Chenda, Tripayar Ramesan on Timila, Kalamandalam Manikantan on Mirav, Kalanilayam Srijit on Maddalam. We would like to thank all these drummers for coming together despite lockdown and several other difficulties and create this beautiful percussion ensemble for us.
Thank you very much for that beautiful video. And now, before we actually get into the session, which talks about the grassroots stories of peace initiatives, I would like to request my technical team to kindly relay a small curtain raiser video.
In recent years, international peace practitioners have come to recognize that the conventional method of building positive peace through a one-size-fits-all approach lacks effectiveness. The approach can be understood as a practice whereby leading states, NGOs, and international financial bodies promote various versions of peace through peace support interventions in collaboration with individuals and organizations. This session is meant to inspire young leaders to serve as catalysts for peace and social justice in their local communities and throughout the world.
Thank you very much for that video. And now it's time that I invite our first speaker of this session, the co-chair of Global Coalition on the Youth, Peace and Security, Director of Children and Youth Programs, Search for Common Ground, Mr. Sachi Prelis. Mr. Sachi Prelis is also the Director and an International Conflict Transformation Organization. Prior to joining FFCG, Mr. Prelis was the founding director of the Peace Building and Development Institute at American University in Washington, D.C. Over 11 years at the university resulted in him co-developing over 100 curricula exploring the nexus of peace building with development. It is indeed our honor and privilege to have you here today, sir. Thank you very much for joining in, and we're looking forward to your address. Over to you.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm wondering if I can share my screen so that I can share a quick presentation with you all.
Absolutely. I would request my technical team to do so, but we have approximately 7 to 8 minute time, sir.
That's all I need.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's visible, sir. Please go ahead.
Fantastic. So again, thanks so much for giving me this honor and privilege to join you all on this very auspicious occasion. It's very difficult to go after the Honorable Minister and the kind of dialogue that just happened, but I'm going to take a moment to take a step back from this and talk about why young people really matter today in the world, and close with a story about how young people at the grassroots level have shaped a global agenda and a field around young people's roles in peace building itself. So to start with, why young people matter. There's over 1.8 billion people between the age of 10 and 24 in the world today. And when you look around the world, they are the largest generation history that's ever walking on this planet right now as we talk today with you. If you look on the world map right now, the countries in green, the median age in these countries in their teenage years. The countries in yellow, the median age is in the 20s. So you're looking around the world, a large portion of the population around the world is young. But about 1 in 4 young people around the world between 15 and 29 years of age are experiencing violence and conflict on a daily basis. 77% are working in informal jobs. And with our pandemic we are facing, we have over 815 million young people who are facing not just a public health pandemic, but also a hunger pandemic as well. So I wanted to zoom in to look at what those countries look like, where the countries where the median age is 15, 16, 17 years of age. These are some of the countries with the youngest populations in the world. If you walk around in the villages and cities in these countries, all you see is these images of young people in their teenage years around in the cities and streets. This was taken a year and a half ago in a country called Niger in West Africa. That's what you see in the world. So as we think about this work, about the role young people play in peace, I wanted to put a face to this itself. And this is what we see. But here's the other reality we also see. Many countries in the world where the median age of the population is young, the leaders of those countries, the median age is over 60 years of age. The average age of a world leader is over 60 years of age. 51% of the world's population is under the age of 30. Yet, only 2% are in parliaments around the world. 2.1% of parliamentarians are under the age of 30 as well. So when you ask ourselves how we govern and how we represent to do this population, the largest population to walk on this planet, do they feel represented? Do they feel heard? Are their aspirations being engaged with as partners? So what the international community at the international level have seen is young people have been seen as a problem to be fixed, have been seen as a burden, and are perpetrators of crime and violence around the world. That is primarily motivated by a policy panic by leaders. Policy panic coming from stereotypes that are not based on facts. But if we flip that a little to see this population as an opportunity, less threatening, we are able to see a new reality itself. But this policy panic has been guided by some questions, important questions nonetheless. Some of the questions that have guided that policy panic is, why are young people joining armed groups? Why are young people joining gangs? Why are young people using drugs? Why are young people joining violent extremist groups? Those are important questions, but we have not asked the right questions. We need to ask ourselves a new question to discover what the missing piece is in our populations, the lifeblood in our communities. So the new question we should be asking ourselves is, why are most young people peaceful? If we ask ourselves these kinds of questions, we are able to discover new answers to the complex, multidimensional problems that we face in our countries today. So I'm going to, in the last few minutes, take a minute to share with you this grassroots story of how young people shaped a global agenda and now what we call a field of youth participation in peace building itself. This is a picture of the United Nations Security Council. The previous session earlier today also talked about the Security Council itself. In here, over 11,000 young people from about 110 countries and territories around the world came together saying, we are tired of being seen as troublemakers and victims. We are so much more than that. You're putting oxygen in the wrong place. Recognize for what we are doing in our communities, prevent violence. We are the first responders in humanitarian crisis situations. See us for who we really are. The Security Council heard this rallying call, and in December 2015, for the first time, unanimously adopted Security Council Resolution 2250. This is the first time a global body like this recognized young people as partners in peace building and peace and security issues. And then they followed suit in 2014 and 2018 and 2020 with two subsequent resolutions. All three, for the first time, talk about the political force that young people are for peace. What it does when these global bodies or national bodies recognize young people as partners is it gives young people who are on the front lines of building peace more oxygen. It gives them more legitimacy and credibility and something to be proud of. So imagine ourselves asking the right questions and new questions about the force for good and the force that they play in peace. We may be able to discover new answers to the multilateral, multidimensional problems we face. Later today, you will hear again, right after me, you will hear another colleague talk about how young people have been inspired by this and what they're doing at the community level also. So with that, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. It's a tremendous privilege. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the conversation later.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Saji. Thank you very much. And I did not really understand how exactly you kept track of time because it is precisely 7 minutes and a precise message more than that, what you shared with us. Thank you very much and salute to the work that you have been doing. Thank you very much for that. My friends, now next, as Mr. Saji said, we have yet another peace activist all the way from Democratic Republic of Congo, the founder Peacemaker 360 campaign at Belgium, Mr. Christian Sito Sirhigiri. It is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you. Mr. Christian has been the peace activist from the Congo with 8 years supporting youth participation in peace-building processes in Eastern Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi. Christian is a passionate person about mass communications and the role of social media to foster knowledge and experience sharing among peace-building professionals around the world. It is indeed our honor and privilege to have you, Mr. Christian, here today at this very, very important session on philosophy. Thank you very much for being here with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much indeed for that kind introduction, and it's a real honor to be here as well as one of the panelists in this auspicious event. Thank you so much to the MIT for organizing, and really been enriched with a wonderful presentation as well of my predecessors, and an honor indeed to pick after a brilliant presentation by Saji Prilit from Search for Common Ground. My work has involved really supporting young peace builders in their efforts to contribute to peace in different conflict contexts around the world. My origins itself is from the Eastern Democratic of Congo, a country that still undergoes a lot of conflictuous challenges that affect young people. But as Saji has pointed out clearly, in most of these conflict contexts, not every young person is actually working against peace. In fact, as Saji has put very well, we are working and most of young people are working for peace. And this is not only the case in Eastern Congo, but it's also the case in Colombia, where I had been working for the past 3 years, and in other countries around the world where I've connected with thousands of young peace builders who are working on the front lines of peace. So today, what I'd like to share with you are just simple stories, a few stories that I've picked throughout my work, two of them that have marked really what this movement that is growing of young peace builders working for peace can do to make this world a better place. And if we all can tune into these voices, listen to their stories, and humanize young people, then hopefully peace is not going to be something that the world will be looking for, because most young people are working for peace. And the first story I would like to share with you is a story that I picked from a colleague of mine working in Colombia, in a region that has been, as you know, Colombia, a country has been going through conflicts for over 50 years. And this young man by the name of Isaias had been very closely working with a marginalized community in the Caribbean coast. He had lost all of his family as a result of narco trafficking, who had been targeting all young people in his community, including some of his own siblings, died as a result of that. So Isaias had two choices. One was to join the narco trafficking groups or mafia themselves, or two, to decide to work for peace. And at a time when Colombia was signing a peace accord with the FARC rebels in 2015, Isaias decided to be one of the few voices that spoke for peace. He started his own organization and brought the voices of his community, of many young people like him who had been affected by conflict, but who had chosen to not join the conflict. And Isaias today, as we speak, is one of the champions of young youth-led peace building in Colombia, in this particular community. Another story that I'd like to share with you is one of Karine Umutoniwase. Karine is of Rwandan descent, but currently based in Kenya. Karine is a daughter from a Hutu father and a Tutsi mother. And for those who are familiar with the Rwandan genocide, during the 1994 genocide, Tutsis and Hutus were pitted against each other over ethnic identity conflicts. And being from such a tight bond, where a mother from a Tutsi lineage and a father from a Hutu identity, Karine felt very many times torn in her own identity. By the time she reached in Kenya, where she's working, she had to think very carefully about which side to pick. Should she identify mostly as a Tutsi, or should she identify as a Hutu? And in that conflicting identity crisis that she faced, she decided to start her own organization that really works on challenging ethnic conflicts and ethnic ideology that divide young people around two groups. And he has been able to champion for change, and they bring young people from different ethnic groups to think about peace and not to think about identities. And the very last story I'd like to share with you, because of time, is a story from Sahida. Sahida is working currently in Afghanistan. And Sahida is a young lady who has braved a lot of challenges to be even a female voice in her own community. Instead of feeling suppressed in a community that often marginalizes voices of women, Saida decided to be a voice that really brings to the fore voices of women in her community, and making sure that they are heard not only in local decision-making processes, but also in national level processes. At the time as we speak, Saida has been able to inspire other young women like her to join this movement and to be voices of hope for many women who are marginalized for their rights. The few things that I've shared with you, the few tips and stories that I've shared with you have three things in common, if I would like to just summarize them. Most stories of young people working for peace are stories of ordinary young people deciding to work instead of against all odds, to decide to work for peace. They are limited in resources, but they have a great heart to be inspiring models for themselves and for their communities. Two, they are really driven by a commitment to tell a different story and a different narrative around young people involvement for peace. And as Saj has pointed out, most young people like Isaias, like Karine or like Saida, they are all driven by shaping a new narrative for peace. And the very last point I'd like to share with you is that peace today may seem very far away, but in every context, in every community, when you look really deep inside, you'll find that there are so many young people who are committed for peace. And our job as peace builders internationally is to find those voices, to listen to those stories, and to amplify them. So I'm really grateful for the privilege to be able to share some of these stories. If you would like to continue in touch with the work, visit our webpage at www.peace360maker.com or follow us on Facebook at peacemaker360.com, a platform that we use to share all these inspiring stories and many more on what young people are doing for peace around the world. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Thank you very much for sharing all those important stories about the people, those who are really, really, I would say, working hard. Thank you very much for sharing that, and all the very best. And we all wish that one day all you peacemakers are successful and we see peace prevailing in the world. Thank you very much for that. Next, we have the guest to speak in this very important session, the Executive Director for the Rotary Action Group for Peace from Portland, USA, Ms. Rim Gunai. It is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce her to all of you. Rim is the Executive Director for the Rotarian Action Group for Peace based in the United States. She is a positive peace activator and a Global Peace Index Ambassador for the Institute for Economics and Peace. Rim has demonstrated leadership through several international projects and events. Ms. Rim is a prominent advocate for human rights, social entrepreneurship, technological innovation, creative arts, and economic development. And Rim is an expert on Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It is really important, and I would to discuss the same. And thank you very much, Ms. Rim, for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much. If you would thank you so much for hosting me. I would like to share a few slides so I can present to you. So
absolutely, I would request my technical team to share the rights with you.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I really appreciate your invitation to speak at the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion, and Philosophy. All are pillars and important components of what makes us great humans and peaceful humans, those elements. And I'm really honored to be a little part of this amazing historic event. Thank you for your invitation. I'm very inspired also by the comments and the presentations by my fellow speakers and participants. To start, I would like to look at this Global Peace Index map to ask the question, what is the problem that we're trying to solve when we talk about peace? And this map summarizes the problem in a nutshell. Peace is a universal aspiration, but it's not a universal reality. And as you can see, the countries in red and yellow and orange are less peaceful than those are in green and yellowish colors. So this represents a problem, and that problem is peace inequality. So we have a peace and equality gap in the world, where the most peaceful countries in the world continue to become peaceful and the least peaceful countries in the world continue to deteriorate. And we have a global trend that keeps on growing. And we need to reverse the trend by being intentional about interventions that would change that. And youth are a great component and a very vital component to reversing that trend. And this is beautifully summarized by the wise words of Martin Luther King, when he said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And to share a small story with you from Palestine, since I'm from that conflict, about how peace and equality really looks like in reality. when my neighbor was born in the second Intifada, a very violent time in the West Bank, invasions, F-16, Apaches in the air shooting. It was really violent time, high militarization. So Suha, her name, was born, and after a year of her birth, her mom came to have a cup of tea with us. And she told us that Suha had spoken her first word. I was excited, and not for so long when her mom said that her first word was takh. Takh means shooting. A baby's first word was shooting in a conflict zone. That was a wake-up call for me that just made me very intentional about not allowing this to happen to any other child ever again. And that's really my mission. So I do that. I'm very honored and privileged that I get to be the leader of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. Our mission is really focused on activating the Rotary network worldwide, made of 1.2 million Rotarians. They are structured in clubs. So we offer them resources for education. We bring intentional focus at the club level for peace, making peace a priority. And we also raise the profile. It is important to highlight, like we've seen in the previous slide, that peace is an urgent call, and peace action is an urgent call and an urgent humanitarian priority. So this is what we're trying to bring to Rotarians' attention. And this is what we've done so far. We cultivate an ecosystem of peace builders made of Rotarians and led by Rotarians. So these are the numbers of what we've accomplished so far. We have around 600 members in 124 nations. Peace Builder Clubs is really a program that I will be speaking about a little bit more. As an example, we have social media outreach, and we have website visits. So basically we have a structure for peace, and we are ambitious about keeping this growing. So this is some of the initiatives that the Rotary Action Group for Peace did in the last Rotary year. I can't go through all these initiatives, but for this particular presentation, since we're focused on youth, I'd like to focus on two of them, and that is the Together for Peace webinar and the Peace Builder Clubs initiative. But these are some of the things that we've done. We've done projects, we've done educational, we provided books produced a workbook for peace building for the Rotary clubs, and so on. So what is the Together for Peace? The Together for Peace is really a series that we produced as a response to COVID-19. We wanted people to come together and act for peace, regardless of the fact that we are isolated. That should have never stopped us from acting for peace. We did that by making Rotarians, creating basically a virtual hub where Rotarians and peace builders and peace organizations and young people utilize their computer screens and their living rooms, turning them into platforms for peace. So every living room becomes a platform for peace. And when we come together, it's really powerful, because through the webinar series, we have enlightening conversation, full of education, full of human stories, spirituality, philosophy, and practical strategies and action items in a living room conversations, spirited conversation that allows people to be inspired and motivated and feel compassion towards the populations we address and the problems we discuss, and feel inspired to take action. And we offer a follow-up surveys and list of actions, and we connect people together. So it's beyond a conversation. We take the conversation from a compassionate conversation into actionable results. So that's really what we've done so far. We've addressed, we've highlighted conflicts like Cyprus, Northern Ireland. We've addressed countries like Bolivia, the Middle East, and so on. We've interviewed Nobel Peace Laureate nominees and peace activists, diplomats, religious leaders, all kinds of leaders who work on the ground for peace. This is the other initiative, the Peace Builder Clubs, where I mentioned that we bring this intentional focus on peace at the Rotary Club level. So really it is to make peace a priority for them, and we're creating a network of peace builders. This is very young program, but the underpinning philosophy behind it is to create an infrastructure for peace. And a global network where Rotarians and Rotary actors, the young population in Rotary is called Rotary actors, can come together and work on peace projects, convene their community, collaborate and partner with other people and organizations in their community for peace projects. And that's where I'd like, since we're talking to youth here, is that I'd like you and invite you to find your Rotary Club. If you have a peace initiative idea, reach out. Rotary clubs offer connections and resources and so on. So my call to action is for you to join the Rotary Action Group for Peace. Go to our website, Rotary Action Group for Peace. Watch the Together for Peace webinar series on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. And subscribe to our newsletter and connect with your Rotary Club. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rim. Thank you very much for sharing those important initiatives you've been taking. And indeed, all you three people are beautiful people are working on extremely important thing that the world needs now. We have our next guest of honor, Dr. Vistap Karbhari, speaking. But before that, I'm going to request the Honorable Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University, Dr. N.T. Rao, to express his mind after this very, very important discourse of thoughts. Over to you, Honorable Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Gautam. Peace greetings to everyone. We are really delighted to host such young minds who are taking initiatives towards world peace. Today, as a university, I'm really happy that the word world peace has truly come onto the fore. Everybody talking about world peace, everyone doing good work in their own ways. So it's really appreciable that you have taken this platform, and from here, the message would go to our students and all the community, how the work being done in the different areas by different people in different directions, all working for a common cause of the world peace. Now, I don't know how many of you are really aware that the initiatives that we at our university work towards the world peace. The very fact that this university has been established with the motto of achieving the world peace or working towards the world peace is itself is a reflection that we are committed. And not many universities would be teaching peace subjects as part of their curriculum. Not many universities would be asking every one of its students to go and spend in rural areas to understand the rural Indians' plight, or say rural Indian problems, or work on those issues where you would be trying to provide solutions. So that way, this university is committed. Now, we are also taking this opportunity to announce the launch of World Peace Fellowships, which Honorable Minister has just now at the beginning of this session has announced. So this is one more initiative where a 6-week program, the people from around the world can come, spend their time, get a certification, and get to understand and appreciate nuances of different aspects of peace. So this is one beautiful concept where we expect in due course of time, more and more people would spend time on our campus, understand the philosophy and the concept of peace. And let's say each one goes out, each fellow after his training goes and sensitizes another 10, and those 10 again sensitize another 10. That way we would like to expand our peace efforts through these fellowships. So this way we are sending a message to the world. Here is an institution, here is a university, which doesn't only talk about or say preach only the classrooms, but we also do much more than that. We practice peace, we teach peace, and we also, in all our thoughts and deeds and actions, we imbibe the world peace. And then another major idea I would like to say is the very conference, the annual conference, 6th Parliament, is again another reflection that we conduct the events, we work towards the world peace in all our actions and deeds. So with this, I think all of us would take lessons from this event and send a strong message to the world. Yes, it is possible to work towards world peace. And then for that, what we need is the young practitioners, which the three of you have today come onto this platform and express your opinions. I really congratulate you, and then also congratulate everyone for this event. And I'm hopeful that World Peace University would be in the forefront of the world, where everybody would be talking about, hey, here is a university which is committed so much to the world peace, like no other institution does. We are not NGOs, we are not a government, we don't have all that support. We have what we carry is our commitment. So with that, I think once again, thank you all of you. I wish the conference every best, and all of you also the safe and very best in all your endeavors. Keep doing this, keep the world peace flag higher. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Thank you very much for your good wishes. And yes, indeed, I'm sure all these three beautiful people, peace workers, and definitely many, many thousands of inspired people with the work MIT World Peace University under your able leadership is putting in. Thank you very much for that. Now we have the next guest of honor, very important person to speak in this session, the Professor of Department of Civil Engineering, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering from the University of Texas at Arlington. The guest of honor of the session, Professor Dr. Vistap Karbhari. But before I invite him to address the gathering, I would like to request my technical team if they could please kindly relay a small film made on life and work of Dr. Vistap Karbhari. Over to you, technical team.
Dr. Vistaspa Karbhari is an Indian-American civil engineer and an acclaimed university administrator. As the 8th president of the University of Texas at Arlington, Dr. Karbhari led UTA from 2013 to 2020 on a forward-looking trajectory focused on excellence through enhanced academic quality and reputation. He focused on ensuring the success of the university's more than 60,000 students in Texas and around the world, emphasizing engagement and activity through 4 theme areas of health and the human condition, sustainable urban communities, global environmental impact, and data-driven discovery. An internationally reputed researcher, Dr. Karbhari has authored or co-authored over 460 papers in journals and conference publications. He is a member of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts and a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, among many others. We are honored to welcome Dr. Vistaspa Karbhari to the World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy 2020.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that video. And the ex-president of the University of Texas at Arlington is here with us. It is indeed our honor and privilege to have you here today, sir. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. It's indeed a pleasure to be joining all of you at the 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy. Before I begin, my sincere thanks to Dr. Vishwanath Karad, the founder of MIT WPU, who is an engineer and an educationist, for setting a path years ago that ensures that education becomes a beacon of hope, an integrator of knowledge and spirituality, and indeed a path towards achieving true and long-lasting world peace. For me, it is humbling to be giving this talk as a guest of honor at MIT WPU, since Dr. Karad was a faculty member when I was a student at the College of Engineering, Pune. To most people, science, religion, and philosophy are distinct in terms of disciplines, more in conflict with each other than having a commonality. And in fact, we are more likely to hear the phrases science versus religion or science as the antithesis of philosophy, rather than the integration of the three towards or due to a commonality. Very often, the differences are presented as conflicts that cannot be resolved, points of view that are universes apart, and ones that divide humanity. Science and religion are often postulated to be great forces in opposition, one described as being based on faith, and the other based on accurate observation and logical deduction. Yet they are far closer than one could imagine at first glance, and far more intertwined in a way that lets us reflect on the past and peer into the future, not as individuals, but as members of the human race. Perhaps it is helpful for us to look at the definitions of these three words using the Encyclopedia Britannica. Religion is defined as human beings' relation to that which they regard as holy, sacred, absolute, spiritual, divine, or worthy of a special reverence. It is also commonly regarded as consisting of the way people deal with the ultimate concerns about their lives and their fate after death. Science is any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. In general, a science involves the pursuit of knowledge concerning general truths or the operation of fundamental laws. Philosophy, from the Greek by way of Latin philosophia, love of wisdom, is the rational, abstract, and methodical consideration of reality as a whole or of fundamental differences of human existence and experience. Philosophical inquiry is a central element in the intellectual history of many civilizations. When we consider these three, then, we should realize that philosophy, through the consideration of human existence and experience, connects the first two. Furthermore, all three are interwoven into the fabric of knowledge, bringing together past, present, and future, where we can learn from history, develop through experience, and posit the future through an application of a mix of science and faith. Truly irrespective of where we stand on the artificial divide between science and religion, we must admit that in the development of anything new, there is always a dependence on faith, and even a role for what we term as chance. Consider as an example our quest in the 1960s to reach the moon. A lot was known. An enormous amount was simulated on Earth. A huge number of complex calculations were conducted. This was science and engineering at its very best. Converting a simple concept, launch a metal tube, powered in the same way as missiles that cause destruction, break the Earth's gravitational pull, travel in a path that intersects that of the moon around the Earth, keeping in mind that the distance at the apogee is 252,000 miles, and at the perigee, 225,600 miles. Land on a planet the nature of whose surface we're not quite sure. Walk in an atmosphere that we have not been completely able to analyze. Launch again off that surface and return safely. Millions of calculations, each backed by theories, experiments, and repeated tests. And yet so much unknown with so many assumptions. If it were completely up to science, we would not have dared to take the leap. But those in charge had faith, hope, and faith in their theories and hypotheses, faith in calculations, faith in the engineering that would provide the solutions to leakages, rivets breaking open from vibrations, and materials from melting under extreme heat, and guided by the knowledge from ancient philosophers, such as Anaxagoras, who more than 2,500 years ago determined that the surface of the moon reflects sunlight, enabling him to explain lunar phases and eclipses. In the 5th century BC, he was exiled from Athens for postulating that the moon and the sun were objects and not gods. Science, religion, and philosophy came together as Neil Armstrong stepped on the lunar surface, just as they have and will continue as we use the past to develop a future based on our future knowledge and our best understanding of phenomena and our faith that we will overcome. Many consider religion and religious being incompatible with being a scientist. Nothing could be further from the truth. Consider three very important scientific breakthroughs: the Big Bang Theory, the field of genetics, and the decoding of the human genome. The first was postulated by Georges Lemaître, a Belgian Catholic priest and astronomer. The second by Gregor Mendel, an Augustinian monk. And the third by Francis Collins, director now of the National Institutes of Health, who till his graduate studies in medicine was an atheist. religion played an important role in each of these three. Philosophy, science, and religion played an interwoven, intertwined role in the lives of each of these, and the commonality, beyond their brilliance, was the pursuit of knowledge, melding decisions based on evidence, as is the scientific method, with the search for fundamentals of nature as devised by a higher power, a faith ascribed to religion. Philosophy, science, and religion thus mark three of the most fundamental modes of thinking about the world and our place in it. We live today in a dynamic and interconnected world, one driven by globalization and the consequent integration and mobility, not only of goods and services, but also of information, capital, and people. Technological advances have made it possible for people, ideas, and resources to flow seamlessly and swiftly across yesterday's barriers of time and space. News and information is available in the blink of an eyelid, moving faster than it can be checked, spreading across the globe as never before, ensuring that events can no longer be hidden from the public eye, but also enabling rapid diffusion of rumors, innuendo, and false reports. As the world becomes smaller, diverse peoples are pushed together closely, sometimes making them reluctant neighbors, and often fueling resentment, envy, anger, and mutual distrust. Divides, social, cultural, religious, and political, have been amplified as the ever-present competition for resources is extended to that of control of ideas and modes of communication. A world that is beset by challenges that know no national boundaries, poverty and hunger, the growing inequities between the rich and the poor, terrorism, water shortages, and the irreparable harm done to our oceans and lakes by industrialization and increasing pollution, the escalating global tensions between development and sustainability, the rise of diseases such as COVID that are resistant to the very medical advances that were once considered to be the means to eradicate them. While we have advanced in technology, we have perhaps receded in our development of the human spirit and in our ability to enhance dialogue and understanding between ourselves. Materialism has increased, and with it, there has been a dramatic loss in spirituality and the inner peace, as well as in the true engagement between people, an engagement built of mutual respect. To address these aspects, there is a critical need for the development of leadership. Young women and men who can think beyond boundaries of place, identity, and norms, who have empathy, trust, and mutual respect for diverse civilizations and cultures, who seek to contribute to a sustainable and more humane world, and do not live in a vacuum, but seize important questions, confront them, and develop solutions. But this will not happen by itself. This will only occur if our educational institutions take the lead in teaching not just the precepts of science, philosophy, and religion, but the integration of these towards building of a learned citizen and a more complete being, one who is grounded in faith and in the acknowledgement of morality in a higher code, yet driven by rational thought and the scientific method, and guided by the past while looking always to a better future. While he was discussing the needs of the country he so loved, Nelson Mandela remarked that education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. Today, perhaps more than ever before, those words ring true. Education, the imbibing of knowledge, the core purpose of every institution of higher education, is perhaps humanity's last and best hope. It is institutions such as MIT WPU who emphasize the context and interwoven nature of science, religion, and philosophy that can lead us to a new and a better tomorrow. I truly commend Dr. Karad for his foresight in developing a core of spirituality and philosophy underlying all aspects of study at MIT WPU. His students hopefully will graduate not just with knowledge, but the discernment of how to use it and how to move forward in unison, melding their knowledge of science, religion, and philosophy towards peace rather than conflict. The launching of the World Peace Fellowship is an important step in that process, creating justice-oriented citizens exploring the reasons behind some of the most pressing problems that we face on Earth, and then working individually and in groups to address and resolve these issues. This meeting, the sixth in its series spread over 3 days, is an important and continuing step towards the development of a better global future, one driven by a common set of goals of peaceful interaction and harmony, a focus on addressing climate change and protecting Mother Earth from the ravages that we have affected, a renewed dedication to the eradication of debilitating diseases, and a determined effort to engage from the grassroots level to global understanding, just as we have heard from the 3 speakers previously. It is indeed fitting that these efforts are not just being hosted by a university, but that the efforts are being driven by academic leaders, the holders of the very knowledge that can be used to integrate and weave science, religion, and philosophy into a single fabric, one that will match our advances in technology with those of inner peace and global understanding. So let me then quote the words of the Dalai Lama, who said, "There are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day to love, to believe, to do, and mostly to live." May the work that is being done at MIT WPU enable the maximization of today so that there will always be a tomorrow, one where religion, peace, philosophy, and education will always come together through spirituality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Karbhari. Beautifully articulated address. Thank you very much, and so beautifully said that there are 2 days where we cannot do anything, yesterday and tomorrow. So it is today that we have to do whatever we want to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a person who has been leading an American university for a long time and having an extraordinary understanding of global academic landscape and overall university systems. Thank you very much, Dr. Karbhari, for taking time out and addressing the entire gathering here today. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
My pleasure.
It was indeed honor and privilege to listen to you today. My friends, let me now take the session forward, and where we have not in person, but the Australian philanthropist, founder, and executive chairman of the Charitable Foundation and Institute of Economics and Peace, Sydney, Australia, Mr. Steve Gilliela. For some technical reasons, he could not be here with us today, but he had sent his video message for this World Conference. I would request my technical team if they could please kindly relay the video message from Mr. Steve Gilliela.
Well, it's my pleasure to talk to you from Sydney, Australia at your conference. Alas, I can't be there in person, otherwise I would have loved to attend. I think it's going to be a great day. What I'd like to do is...
Also, we can't hear.
A little bit.
So it seems that the overall audio output needs to be gained. Technical team, if you could please gain the audio from your end, if possible. Thank you.
To being interested in peace. So I've got a family foundation. We do a lot of work with the poorest of the poor. So we spend a lot of time in war zones, near post-war zones. And I was actually in a place called Northeast Kivu in the Congo, walking through there, and I started to think, what are the most peaceful nations in the world? Was there anything I could learn from them to bring into the projects I was doing? Searched the internet.
Is it a maximum, technical team?
So that raised for me a very, very profound question. If a simple businessman like myself can be walking through Africa and can't find a list of the most peaceful countries in the world, then what do we actually know about peace? If you can't measure something, can you truly understand it? If you can't
Technical team, am I audible? Is it at the maximum level from your end?
What you're doing, you don't. And that is how the Global Peace Index was born. And from that sprung the Institute for Economics and Peace. But once we had the ability to be able to measure the countries of the world by their peacefulness, what we could do then was use statistical analysis to determine those factors which are most closely associated with highly peaceful societies. And that, my friends, is what we call positive peace. So positive peace is those attitudes, institutions and structures which create and sustain highly peaceful societies. And this is really important to understand because a lot of them we think we know and a lot of them we actually do know. But when you put it into and study it statistically, you're now able to clump it into different groups. And from that, we developed this typology called the Pillars of Positive Peace, which is an 8-part typology. And now, having that, we could turn that around into another index, which gave us the ability now to be able to measure whether countries were improving in the prospects to create peace or whether they were deteriorating. And that was profoundly important because you could now determine not only the direction of the future peacefulness of countries, but also their resilience, because the two are tied so closely together. So what's positive peace associated with? So not only does positive peace create peaceful societies, it also creates a lot of other things which we think are important, like higher per capita income, better performance on ecological measures, better measures of well-being and happiness, and better measures of inclusion. So in many ways, you can look at positive peace and describe it as an optimal environment for human potential to flourish. And that is incredibly important. But also...
Well, Chancellor, sir, should we continue or share it later on the social media? Because I'm not really sure if they're audible.
Yeah, true. I think it's not fully audible, Gautam, and I don't think we'll be able to make out what the message is about.
Sure.
I think we can
Technical
continue
team,
this. Yeah.
Technical team, I think we can halt it for now and share it later on social media on other platforms with some rendered, some audio re-engineering, I suppose. Sorry for the technical glitch. We could not hear Mr. Steve Kelly. Am I echoing? Thank you. So I'm sorry for the technical glitch. We could not hear Mr. Steve Gilliela, but I'm sure we would re-engineer the audio and share it with all of you, everyone in the audience on our social media platforms. Thank you very much. And with this, we are reaching towards the end of this particular session, but we're approaching. And let me quickly remind you that according to the session plans shared with you, tomorrow morning, the 9th session was scheduled to start at 10:30 a.m. But please let me remind you that the session has been preponed and it is going to start 1 hour early, somewhere around 9:30 a.m. You all are requested to log in so that we can start the session at 9:40 a.m.
Gautam, one small correction. We will be starting at 10:15 a.m. as per the instructions from senior sir. The program will start at 10:15 a.m. tomorrow.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much for that update. So still it is a preponement of 15 minutes. So please be sure that you log in somewhere around 10 minutes past 10 o'clock tomorrow morning so that you'll be able to attend the session without any issues. So before I invite Professor Joe Thomas for concluding remarks, I would just like to check with Revered Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karat, sir, if he would like to say something about this session. I'm not really sure if we have him online, but I was trying to connect with him over phone. I guess not. Thank you very much. I think we can proceed with the concluding remarks from Professor Joe Thomas. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It is indeed very exciting evening, and it is in between live experience of building peace and also very exciting intellectual input about understanding about the peace. And anyway, it's a very relevant subject. MIT World Peace University, our mid-name is World Peace. So that is very relevant in that context. And I'm very excited to see that we launched a special program on teaching peace. And the Peace Fellowship Program is just a beginning. And I'm quite sure that that will be growing to a master's program in peace and development. I look forward to that. And at the same time, we learned how to practice peace. Probably MIT World Peace University, we are talking about practicing peace, teaching peace, research in peace. So this gives a template for where to we look for. And I hope that as an academic institution, we will be contributing and we will be taking more leadership towards doing peace, as well as we're doing research on peace, and also we're looking at the global dimensions of peace. We begin with peace in the personal level, we move into the peace in the society level. And moving to society level, we need new tools, we need methodologies, we need to understand how peace is working. And also MIT World Peace University is very particularly committed towards sustainable development goal. SDG is all about building peace. Without peace, there is no development. SDG 17 is about building peace and partnership with peace. And I hope we will be in future, we will be holding that flag high and promoting sustainable development goal by building peace. And in that context, again, I urge the leadership that we have to look at the academic part of peace much more seriously. We do practice. We have an extremely good team who are practicing and guiding us to look at the peace on a personal level. But we need to move, we need to push forward our envelope towards practicing peace in the area of research, practicing and looking at the applied research in the area of peace and its relationship with the development and its relationship with the mind and spirit. And also we are looking at the new dimensions of psychedelic, the human mind, how it is contributing towards peace. And without much additional taking time, let me thank all of you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give some concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Joe Thomas, for those concluding remarks. And now I would like to request the Pro-Vice Chancellor of MIT World Peace University, Professor Dr. Rajiv R. Thakur, to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Gautam. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Honorable dignitaries, we had the chief guest, Honorable Minister, Professor Arjun Rampal Meghwalji, and we have with us Professor Bistab Kharwariji, revered President, Founder President, MIT World Peace University, Dr. Vishwanath Karadsa, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and all eminent personality and individuals of great eminence. I feel humbled and honored to have this opportunity to extend my vote of thanks for this 8th session of the 3-day 6th World Parliament on Science, Religion, and Philosophy. Thank you so much. First and foremost, let me extend my reverence and thanks to this great institution and the great visionary behind this great institution, Honorable Dr. Vishwanath Karad, whom the world sees in him a guru, a dharmacharya, and a true yogi, and who in his lifetime has created a temple which is a confluence of a new thought process of philosophy itself, which brings in science, religion, philosophy, stroke, spirituality. And for what? For the well-being of the society, for the peace of the universe and the peace of the mankind. We really salute his initiatives. Without going into the details of this institution, I would talk about the new initiative and thank him and the entire visionaries, team of visionaries who have brought forward this MIT World Peace University World Peace Fellowship. And as was detailed by Joshino, it aims at creating justice-oriented citizens who are concerned about the well-being of the society and the world. And It also explained the method by how it can be achieved. And as an educational institution and otherwise, and this philosophy of MIT World Peace University, we need to first of all understand ourselves. We thank the Honorable Minister, the Chief Guest, for announcing this fellowship, and also very precisely aligning with the philosophy of MIT World Peace University, talked about the alignment of the 5 things, the Panch Tattva, that is the body, senses, mind, intellectual, and the soul. And the other point that he emphasizes very pertinent was cut I, go towards we. And that brings the self-realization and closer to the objective of world peace and common good. I relate it with one of the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter 18, and I find it very closure. And it says, Sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam abhyam ikshate avivaktam vivakteshu tadgyanam viddhi satvikam. Very briefly, it says that we need to realize as a self-realization goal that there is one life energy that connects us all. And the day we realize it, I think we can work towards the goal of the world peace and the well-being of the society. I would also like to thank Professor Kharbari for such a address which full of explaining the 3 concepts so lucidly and connecting them together, and how this is so universally relevant in today's time. I don't think I need to elaborate it further, but as it was so well conveyed to all of us. Thank you all for that beautiful stories, whether it was Saji or Kristen or Reem. And there would be many more stories in the world. And we would like to know that, who set examples before us, that how we can come out of this I and connect with we and bring that element of peace and well-being in the society. Thank you once again to all the organizers, the eminent audience who has made this session successful, the entire technical team, the staff, members on staff who have been there to support and make this session successful. And last but not the least, the concluding remarks and the remarks of Honorable Vice Chancellor that gives the entire vista of and the scope of and the belief of this university and the various initiatives of this university. Thank you, sir. We are really honored. With these words, I would hand it over to Professor Gautam and congratulate you for an excellent moderation and taking along the session together so successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that compliment. And indeed, thank you very much for proposing vote of thanks for this very, very important session today. Let me once again remind you, tomorrow morning, 9th session, the Global Peace Movements. India will become a Vishwaguru in 21st century. A roadmap will begin not at 10:30 a.m., but at 10:15 a.m. So please ensure that you all log in on time, before time, for this session. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for joining in for this very important session today. With this, I would like to conclude the session with the permission of Honorable Vice Chancellor and everyone in the dais. But we will conclude this session with national anthem. So I would request everyone to rise in their seats wherever they are for the Indian national anthem. Over to you, technical team. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much for joining in. And now, with the permission of Chair, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you very much for joining in and staying with us for this very important 6th World Parliament of Science, Religion and Philosophy. See you all soon, tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m. Thank you very much for joining in. Good night. Take good care of